episode was recorded during the virtual meeting AI and the Environment, Impacts and Innovation, hosted by the ParlAmericas Parliamentary Network on Climate Change and Sustainability and its staff network. Dr. Letitia Mary Addison, adjunct lecturer at the University of the West Indies and winner of the 2024 Global AI Innovation Challenge, presents her innovative project, AI for SIDS, an AI-powered platform designed to enhance preparedness and strengthen climate resilience in small island developing states. Dr. Addison reflects on her experience at COP29, where AI for SIDS stood out among 114 proposals from 62 countries, underscoring the transformative potential of AI in addressing climate challenges. She highlights the importance of localizing AI projects to meet regional needs and context, emphasizes promoting open source models to lower financial barriers for small enterprises, and outlines key strategies for the sustainable and ethical use of AI within parliaments.
I'm very honored to speak today on this panel, really on behalf of the AI for SIDS initiative, which really is a regional-driven AI project which emerged from researchers at the University of the West Indies here in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's really the pillar of this project. It emerged from the urgent need to build climate resilience in small island developing states. Many of us here would know that SIDS, as we call them for short, particularly the ones in the Caribbean, we are really at the front line of climate change. And we face overlapping threats from hurricanes, floods, sea level rise. We have sometimes constrained resources. Some of our early warning systems may not always be as up to date. And in some cases, we have limited infrastructure to respond in the way we would need to. So this project, and it was really a project proposal that my team and I won at COP29, which we are currently working on building a proof of concept within the next few months into some sort of scalability. It's really to think about the simple but powerful belief that technology must work for all, but particularly in service of the most vulnerable. So in that case, I could probably share a few insights about what that current theme for the platform looks like in terms of what we're working on and how we expect to really drive this in this type of region. So what we want to do is think about artificial intelligence as a tool to give communities power and education. Really also trying in an attempt to bridge the data literacy gap as well. So the platform itself is really coded to use real-time data from satellite imagery, from weather sources, river gauges, sensors, even citizen reports. And we want to be able to use that sort of real-time data collection to complement some of the historical data that we have on these particular natural disasters and impacts currently. You probably think about where does the artificial intelligence come in? And that really comes into being able to use not only the predictive analytics in terms of machine learning and advanced algorithms using some of these GPT tools that we already have. I mean, a lot of us are familiar with large language models such as ChatGPT and Copilot, etc. But we want to see how we can actually put those into our platform and give it the power to give us more power by using insights such as thinking about if you're in the middle of a region where maybe there's a pending storm coming or there's a lot of torrential rain. Maybe you are a farmer in this region. How can I have some sort of alerts or notifications that I could probably get on my phone via SMS or mobile or even through social media, depending on the intensity of the impact? And it can tell me, okay, so you need to move to a higher area, maybe evacuate as soon as possible, and have those real-time contexts. Now, it's not that we don't have that sort of information currently, but it's not as fast as we would need it in certain regions. And I think we want to make sure that it's very localized because we have a very unique context in the Caribbean, SIDS in particular. Most of us would speak English in most of the countries, but some of us speak with a dialect. Sometimes it's broken types of English, and we want to use the tools that we have at our disposal. For instance, speech to text tools to be able to understand in terms of feedback before, during, and after the disaster, social media as well, and what people are saying about it. And we wanted to incorporate all of these into that space and truly understand now how we can use that to allow decision makers to have not only the early warning systems, but also pre-position their resources, coordinate the emergency responses, etc., more efficiently and accurately. Don't get me wrong, we don't want to replace the traditional systems. We really just want to enhance them as much as possible using what we have. So that's really a kind of a context as to what the tool is shaping up to look like. And we're currently working on a flood resilience proof of concept of that tool for Trinidad, hopefully be able to scale it more to other countries as we go along, more in terms of like an open source tool. But to really answer the question now of thinking about this experience, and some of the insights that I think would stand out, I think I have about 3 or 4 insights that I believe would be relevant for parliaments and policy institutions. First of all, what I've learned from my experience with my team as well is that regional collaboration is a necessity. It's not even an option. You can't work alone. These artificial intelligence models need data to be effective. And particularly in this region, we have a lot of fragmented data sets. Some of the data sets are sparse, and we want to be able to really drive more policies now in terms of the data itself, the data collection, the regulations regarding the use of data and those policies. Through this concept, what we are building now, we really see the necessity of building stronger cross-border collaborations in terms of data sharing pipelines, standardized risk models, which could, actually work across partner countries. And that type of network, I think, will increase both the accuracy and the collective resilience. Another thing that would come to mind would be open source models, and that is actually a climate justice issue now. Now, we don't want to necessarily have a lot of okay, I should probably say most of the models on the market would usually be, in terms of artificial intelligence tools, high performance, but some cases expensive and proprietary. What we wanted to do is to show that we could develop or shift now and develop to sharing open access API tools, as we call them, which will remove the financial barriers. Because, of course, we're looking at vulnerable communities and countries where we want to encourage more community level innovation. So in that way, we see those tools, for instance, flood prediction algorithms. We could probably help explore those algorithms with multiple countries and think about not having licenses and costs like that involved. And that would drive more of an open source sharing solution. And thirdly, I just want to say that community integration is really critical for something like this to work. So the technology itself alone artificial intelligence alone will not build resilience. We are definitely going to be relying on the people, and this is a tool for the people because we want to build citizen feedback loops, mobile reporting tools so that your local knowledge would feed into the system. In Trinidad, for instance, we are really experimenting with thinking a local flooding app for mapping where floods would occur, and the high-risk vulnerable zones will actually help refine those risk zones better than even just remote sensing data alone. So just to conclude, I just want to say that we want to be able to predict impacts ahead of time. And it's not just hurricanes and very large storms and these types of things. It's local, flash flooding that could, wipe out certain communities, decrease the livelihood of communities, etc. We want to be able to have tools that could help us actually predict minutes or hours ahead of time than the traditional forecast. And I think also the local emergency services and disaster management agencies and ministries would benefit because they could use that to coordinate earlier evacuations and outcomes to save lives and property and give perspectives on how much money will be involved in terms of climate finance, which is emerging as a really a much larger field now. So I just want to say that in closing, our AI for SIDS proposal really is more than just the data alone. We think of it as, the dignity, the self-reliance, regional empowerment. But we do need, I must say, we do need funding. We need policy support, collaborative ecosystems, And of course, from parliamentary conversations, I think these types of things would come up, and I think we need to drive these conversations more. But that path is really clear. And I believe that the intentional design and the regional solidarity that we would have, not only with SIDS, but the rest of the world, would really truly show that we could use artificial intelligence for a cornerstone for climate adaptation and enhancing these systems in small island developing states. While we often talk about the promise for sustainability, artificial intelligence systems themselves carry a huge environmental footprint, especially when we think about scaling rapidly without checks. So from training large language models to operating data centers, artificial intelligence consumes massive amounts of data, particularly generative AI. And of course, with massive amounts of data being consumed, a lot of electricity is being consumed, cooling water, rare minerals, all of these things come into perspective when we have to think about what's being used. So when you want to think about the actual strategies and the practical strategies, I think that parliaments themselves can lead the way in setting an example for responsible and more sustainable AI adoption. So in my mind, I think that there would be probably about, I always like to think about 3 to 4 key strategies, because I think that's easier to work with mentally. So for practical and sustainable and scalable solutions, I think one of the first things you have to think about, and I think our speakers also touched on, is green data practices. So parliaments could reduce the energy use by adopting leaner models and task-specific artificial intelligence tools. Instead of defaulting to massive models that have very broad capabilities, why not use cloud-based models that are optimized maybe on a device for designed for legislative work, like for document summarization or even sentiment tracking. That's one in terms of green data. And also thinking about a second point would be sustainable cloud contracts. This is something I really recently found out that I think is a really interesting solution. When you think about procuring cloud services, a lot of us use the cloud for various, activities. But what we can do from the parliament's end is really insist on providers that use 100% renewable energy and have net zero data centers. I think the European Parliament, for example, has set some standards requiring a green cloud certification. And this type of procurement policy really shifts the entire market towards greener infrastructure. And I think that example would really set a great example for us here in the Caribbean as well. I mean, I know the larger countries would use larger data centers and data stores, but as we also being involved in the data and the artificial intelligence revolution, even though we may not use as large data centers, we still need to make those considerations also. So I think sustainable cloud contracts is a really great initiative as well. And then we also think about local optimization and energy aware deployment. So if you want to think about where it's feasible, invest in energy efficient local computing systems. We try to do that as well at the university also, and work with telecommunications partners, deploy micro data centers. You could even have these powered by solar power, even hydro energy in some cases. This is not only to reduce the dependence on the high footprint in terms of cloud infrastructure, but I think it builds digital sovereignty in regions like the Caribbean. And the last point I wanted to make as well is that environmental artificial intelligence audits would also be crucial. So parliaments should institutionalize green tech audits as part of their AI implementations. And I think, of course, in the short term and the long term, you could see how these things would pan out in terms of looking at auditing and assessing energy consumption, carbon output, water usage, e-waste risks, associated with all these hardware upgrades that we consistently keep going through. These can be integrated, into existing sustainability policies or even IT frameworks. So I think that finally, I would really want to encourage parliaments to lead by example. I believe your policies on procurement, digital infrastructure, and transparency, they don't just shape national guidelines, but they really do ripple across the private and the academic sectors. So AI must really align with the sustainable goals. And with the right leadership, I think the parliaments could ensure the digital transformation doesn't come, at the planet's expense, but of course contribute to probably a greener and fairer future. So thank you very much.